Hello everybody, welcome back. So we're going to do this public live stream today, just for the fun of it. I suppose it's good to give back once in a while. Hope you don't mind. I know it's a midweek one. We'll do one every now and then, I suppose. So I think we'll do this one today, and then we'll see how it goes. But normally, I think it looks like everybody who's joined this so far is a Patreon member anyway. So stick your questions in there, get your money's worth, and then we'll see who joins throughout the evening. I can see that the Fed's doing some kind of announcement at the moment anyway. But usually these things are a massive non-event anyway, to be to be honest with you. These guys, they're so good at speaking for a long time and saying absolutely nothing. So I think the most important thing to take away from all of this, that's whatever's being said today is nothing. And the overall direction for the Dixie is to be honest with you, it's going to be up, and it's going to reach the levels, the intermediate level that I would suggest, which is about this 200 exponential, top of the Bollinger Band here, 94.2 thereabouts. This is where I'm expecting a potential rejection and maybe the top for this rally. Other than that, all the way up to 95, I would say that would be the absolute top, and then we tail off down from there. So this is what I was saying about expect the shock in the market, and I know that there's been other variables with the Evergrande situation, which I have been looking at, and to be honest with you, that is a major component to what's going on as well. It's not just the uptrend here in the Dixie, but there is international events taking place, over in China, which would have repercussions for all markets, crypto as well. I know it sounds mad because we like to think of crypto as being some, completely separate from everything, and the best way to hedge against any kind of calamity. But if March crash didn't teach us anything, it's very well documented in that dump that this is the March crash here, as the dollar goes up massively, crypto went down massively, and then obviously the opposite happened, right? So there is no safe haven, to be honest with you. There isn't one. And I know on the Telegram chat I said that quote, some people didn't quite like it because it was from Michael Saylor, and I'm not a Michael Saylor fanboy or anything, but he said the best time to buy Bitcoin is always 5 years ago, and that makes sense. And in that respect, then it probably would be a decent hedge if you bought it 5 years ago. And in 5 years from now, buying it today, decent hedge. But buying it now and expecting it to work out in the long run, in the short term for any kind of, safe haven, then no, it's not going to work out for you. In fact, if anything, it'll probably hurt you more. Because what we saw with the traditional markets, with this Dixie going up, and obviously with with the stuff going off in China, we saw I suppose traditional markets, the S&P go down 4 or 5%, whereas crypto essentially went down 16%. So it's not going to work in that respect. The best time to buy Bitcoin is always 5 years ago. I think it's a really good statement. It doesn't matter who said it. It's true. It's true. So what we're looking at now, I don't know what they're talking about in the Fed, but it doesn't seem to be doing a great deal for the Dixie's demise. Dixie's going up, and this is where I expect it to go to first, and if we break out from there, then we go to 95. Then I would expect us to come down for the rest of the year, so that would be the uptrend over with, and then we tail off down, unless of course something dramatic happens, and I'm talking dramatic. Let's just say that China doesn't bail out Evergrande, and then there is a collapse across China that crosses over into our economies, and then obviously that would correspond to a breakdown in crypto. It just would, like it did before. So there is that factor, and that would mean that the Dixie would likely break out from here, and probably break out from here, and maybe even go up to post-pandemic levels, above 97 and beyond. So we don't know exactly, because there are other factors at play. But with or without that, the Dixie, as we were saying last week, and I suppose in the last few weeks, we've been saying that this looks very much like an uptrend, and we are testing a reasonable level of resistance here. And the reason I'm talking about the Dixie, I know I'm boring you all to death. I will go on about Bitcoin in a minute and other cryptos, but it's something to look out for, because this is a significant area to break from, and this would be the breakout. So why I've been saying, I know that we anticipated the drop, when we did the live stream at the weekend. I'm saying, look, let's just, before we've got to hold off, wait and see what the Dixie does. I'm expecting shock in the market, because that we might be breaking out. We actually haven't broken out yet, so I was saying we should when we get get the shock, this would be our opportunity to buy the dip. And it is true, and you could have bought the dip and I suppose caught a decent bounce today across the board for a lot of things. But it's not the it's not exactly what I'm expecting. I'm not saying that there's going to be a further dip. I think there might be, but I'm basing a lot of this around dollar strength. Breaking out from here would be, honestly, it would be a big deal. You can see that this goes back all the way from January. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, August, really. We're dancing around this level. Will it, won't it, will it, won't it? And then we finally broke down from it. Big rejection here recently, and a rejection here the other day. A breakout from here would be a significant milestone for the Dixie to hit. And then, we'll have to see where we're going from there. You know me, you know how I like the Ichimoku cloud. Well, what we have here from a few days ago is a conversion baseline cross above the cloud with the Chiku span above the price action. That is a beginning of trend from here, from this candle here. So from the last time we retested this support zone here, we were rejected the resistance level and closed after a small rejection. We forged ourselves a buy signal on the Dixie. So I know there's not much to it here. It does look like this will be a failed signal unless we break out today, for instance. We really would need to break out today and close above like 93.6, 93.7 just to be safe. But this is technically a buy signal, right? Look, the Dixie isn't a crypto chart. We're not expecting massive moon boy chart, moves, huge green candles. That's not what we're expecting. You can see how small moves correspond to large moves across the board with traditional markets and crypto. And again, this isn't it's not the absolute secret source of what's going on for crypto. It's one component in many. But it is definitely, we are looking at the verge of a breakout for the Dixie, which does often have a negative impact on anything that's pegged against it. So let's have a quick look at Bitcoin. I'll just make sure if everything's working on here, if people are tuned in and if it's actually working. Seems okay. No one's saying I can't hear or whatever. So let's have a quick look at Bitcoin. So I made the video today about this. It makes more sense on the weekly here. So we'll start with the weekly. The weekly doesn't look all that bad. We're still above the cloud. We're above the 200 and the 50 and the 50 simple. We're also above the center of the Bollinger Band. More or less got our support from there. We're in the inside range of the upper inside range of the accumulation zone, so between 41,000 and about 49,000, 50,000. So yeah, still in the accumulation range. Tailing off though on some of these major oscillators that we see and that we do hold quite dear to the standards of an uptrend. I drew this crude triangle formation. This is what we're looking to perhaps maybe play within, which does offer further downside all the way down to 35,000 if we were to break down from there today. But over time it is an uptrend of support. This is a downtrend of resistance, and we've got to work out which way we're going to go from there. That's just a very crude example on a weekly. This is going to take a long time to play out. And again, you don't have to wait to the end of an apex. That's not the idea of these sort of things. These are just basically a guide of a potential support and resistance. Well, as soon as we break out and we close above, obviously this would be on a weekly, the better. Waiting towards the end of the apex, which brings us into next year, that's no place for us to be playing a formation like that. It gives us an idea of how long it would take for it to play out at its maximum. But if you're trading those sort of formations, then the longer it takes for it to play out, usually the crapper the move will be. So we do want to break out from it sooner rather than later. At the moment on the weekly it's not all that bad. Daily is not looking particularly good. It's a fair old bounce so far, but its relationship to moving averages is pretty awful, I have to say. Below all major moving averages apart from the 200 exponential. So we'll have to see where this one goes. The daily doesn't look great, I have to say. It doesn't look particularly good at all. 4 hourly is looking a little bit better, but still rejection more or less from the center of this Bollinger Band. So hopefully we'll catch a support on here. When I was making the video this morning, we were being rejected from the 10 exponential. Looks like we're catching support on it now. So that in itself is nice to see. You don't want us to break down from 42,800 or wherever this moving average is going to be. We are turning up on these oscillators as well on the 4 hourly, so that is better than I expected, definitely. And like I was saying this morning, I don't normally like looking at the 1 hourly. It's not really my thing. I'm not much of a margin trader, but I suppose when we're seeing moves like this, we do have to look at the smaller term time frames for any kind of hopium. And the hopium was given to us, and it seems to be working out okay. So since this downtrend was really beginning to pick up pace. We've got higher lows on the RSI that correspond to lower lows on the price action. So a really big amount of bullish divergence, which is playing out. So this could be essentially the low. We may come back down to retest some lower areas potentially, maybe even back down to the bottom of the accumulation zone, maybe 41,000. That's just based on how weak and I suppose how crap the daily chart looks, that it would suggest that it's very possible that we do come back down to those levels again. And obviously breaking down below here and closing candles below 40,000, I'd call it 41,000 really, or maybe even 41,500 where the 200 exponential is. Closing candle bodies down below there is pretty nasty. And I'm not saying it would spark a bear market. It would still be in an accumulation range. We spent a long time in here, and to be honest with you, since this breakdown in May, we have been in a giant accumulation range. All the way down, I'll say an accumulation, all the way up, still accumulation, and back down again, still accumulation. This entire range, a 70% range, is the accumulation range, and we're still within it. All right, we were saying, look, hold out to the end of the summer. That's when things are going to look good. I know it feels like things are reversing and going to the moon because we're going up every day. We're going up every other day. We're going up. We're still going up within an accumulation range, and we trade altcoins all the time on this channel. We look at altcoins all the time, and most of our money is made through altcoins. And there's many accumulation ranges that we've seen in the past. YFII, that's a good example of a really big, long, drawn-out accumulation range that took over a year to play out. Extremely choppy, massive range. EOS did a really big one before it had its breakout. That was about a 70% range, and you're up and down all over the place. You're like a yo-yo going up and down and up and down, and it's frustrating. And that's basically what this is. It's giant accumulation range. So we went all the way down to the bottom, all the way up to the top, and now we're coming down, I suppose, roughly to the middle. It's not the absolute middle. The absolute middle is basically the mid-30s, upper mid-30s, and we'd be okay, I suppose, to hang on around just below 38,000. 37,000, 38,000 we'll call it. Breaking down below there, we'll be heading towards the bottom of the accumulation range, and I would start to get very concerned at that stage. But for the moment, as far as the time frame of this whole formation to play out, it's still within that summertime vibe, moving up into the fourth quarter where things should really start to pick up around October, November. Is more or less when we've always put our sights on those months really, for when everything will start to pick up again. So yeah, short term, I think the move has largely played out. The 4 hourly is showing signs of life, but not in the same way that the hourly did. Daily's not looking particularly good. It's got a lot of areas to reclaim, and the weekly is still looking okay. So mixed signals across the board, which basically means that it's going to be a very difficult week, I would say, especially with the international events that are taking place in China. We need to know how that's going to be resolved. If China bails it out, absolutely awesome. Everything was going to go up. Fear will have left the market, at least in the short term, and a financial collapse, even if it's just a small one. It'll be big in China, but the repercussions over in the Western economies would be small, or probably completely avoided for now. That's what we're looking to see. So whatever the Fed say or Mr. Powell is saying right now is kind of inconsequential. And what we really need to see is how China is going to resolve that situation, and that is what the real impact is going to be. And that is something that can't be accounted for on these charts, which is unfortunate. So we can look at the charts, we can think about what they're doing, but in terms of health across the market, a lot of it's hanging in the balance, and I still believe that we're not entering into a bear market, although we could potentially already be in one, and we're just not recognizing it for what it is. I mean, like I say, that is descending trend of resistance here. It does look a little bit like a bear market kind of vibe. The only thing that we and this is going to sound harsh, but the only thing that we need to see to confirm a bear market at this stage is a lower low printed on a weekly. So that's when we would know, and hopefully we don't get that. If we were trying to work out are we going to get that or not, looking at this chart right now, it is a bit dicey. But on the weekly, at least on the weekly, and like I say, we've got to hold on to the weekly. We have a descending center at the Bollinger Band. The 20 weekly is facing down. If you imagine this having a little pointy arrow on it saying this is where I want to go, it's still pointing down. It's not stretched out. It's not horizontal yet. It's not trending up yet, which means that this as a major area of support is still facing down. even though we're above it, it's a massively lagging indicator. It is a 20 weekly moving average. It's going to take a while for it to bend. It's still pointing down, so it's not bullish. Even though we are above it, it's not massively bullish, although the price action is still above it, so which means that the hopium can stay alive for now. Right, that was a nice little rant. Hopefully that was okay with you all, and let's get into some of these questions then, shall we? So I'll run this through till 10 o'clock, as I would do normally. Hopefully all my patrons have put their questions in, and then I can get down to some of the questions from, because this is a freebie. Right, so let's have a look at One Fet and Stormex. And again, you know, like I said in that intro, we are thinking about, and I think what we'll do is we'll look at Bitcoin pairs. I think we are thinking that there is a very it's because of the international events, we have to reserve massive expectations on this, on any of these altcoin charts, because we just don't know yet. You know, it's still early days. Like I say, I did expect the shock in the market based on the Dixie, and I do expect the Dixie to increase even just by another couple of % max, which means that we could be looking at further downside, or at least flat as a pancake sideways and down for Bitcoin, which means I would also expect that for altcoins too. So we'll focus on Bitcoin pairs. This will give us an idea of what's strong versus Bitcoin, if there's any decent signals versus Bitcoin, rather than looking at tether pairing, which is obviously good, but we want to know, if we're looking to trade crypto, we might as well see which is the stronger asset. Otherwise we'd just trade Bitcoin, wouldn't we? And I think at the moment what we're looking at now is we should really try and work out who's in a good situation versus Bitcoin, rather than a tether pairing. All right. So Harmony One on the daily. So not looking particularly good over here, I have to say. But major support has been grabbed on the 50 exponential. This is normally a good support for any kind of asset, especially within cryptocurrency. Green 50 exponential moving average has found its support on the daily. That's okay, but this massive uptrend is definitely coming to an end as of today. It would appear this conversion baseline more or less making its cross. There's no way of avoiding this unless we massively rally. So let's have a look on the weekly to see how the weekly looks. And the weekly's okay. It just tagged the 10 exponential as well. So there is definitely potential for this to break down further. Anyway, of course there is. We've got a 10% drop from here to our major support here on the weekly, and that is 287. Where was the 50 exponential on the daily? That is 282. So not much between it. 282, 287. Thereabouts is our major support. And since we've tagged there, it's not been the greatest reaction so far. Definitely not. Let's have a look at the 4-hourly to see if that looks good, because we have been consolidating quite dramatically since that big uptrend. I would say that, to be honest with you, it's actually just consolidating. We've got rejections here on the green 50 exponential. We've got support more or less on the 200. We're forming a triangle vibe, and we need to break out or below from here. Before we go any further, we might as well just quickly look at the Bitcoin dominance chart as well, actually, to see how strong alts are in comparison to Bitcoin at the moment, because we are dancing around at this multi-year support, which like I say, every time we come down to test it, I do get a little bit more fearful for altcoins, at least in the short term, for a bounce. And we did find a bounce here 1-2 weeks in a row. We're looking like we're coming back down here, and this reminds me of this area over here. And I was fearful over here. You know, I was very much into the alt season. I said, look, let's get into alts over here. This is multi-year resistance over here. This is multi-year support. So just as this was an epic opportunity to move from Bitcoin into altcoins, or just pick up your altcoins, this area down here, although there is a chance it breaks down, and the chart is still definitely bearish on the weekly, it still might break down, and it probably will, but I think it's not going to give this zone out up without a battle. And the lower we go, the more exciting it is. You know, at the moment, you know, in that moment that we're breaking down is great, but for those who weren't in, and some of these altcoins over here, you know, getting into altcoins around here, you probably are maybe on borrowed time. Because if this bounces from here, then it'll be well, might not be devastating, but it would be disappointing because Bitcoin would be the better or just the safer place to be in. But if we did break down from here, then yeah, the party continues. There's not much between it though. From here to here, we're almost certainly going to catch a decent bounce from here because this is the ultimate low for the Bitcoin dominance chart. It's only really been relevant from this level too, because this whole chart really couldn't, it wasn't really worth much until recently, and the last 3 years in this current bull market. Since 2018 into 19 especially, this is where the chart really became something that you could use as a trading tool. But using it as a trading tool means that, okay, let's think about supports and resistances. Epic resistance, enter altcoins. Epic supports, get into Bitcoin, or at least start to hedge into Bitcoin, take profit into Bitcoin. So we do have to think about this, right? I don't want to ruin the party for anybody. Of course, there's going to be altcoins out there that absolutely demolish Bitcoin in its gains, and will continue to do that probably, forever. Where's your dollar going to be best off putting in? Some of these altcoins will absolutely dwarf the gains that Bitcoin makes, and I suppose this chart doesn't really do it justice. When we look at the total market cap excluding Bitcoin and the total market cap including Bitcoin, there's not much between it. So we could look at the total market cap including Bitcoin and just recognize that, all right, money's going in, money's going out. So long as money's going in, it's being spread evenly across the board and ever so much in favor of altcoins. You can see that we're up 8.7% with Bitcoin and over 10% excluding Bitcoin. So altcoins are still getting the most out of the gains of the day, and generally gains in general. So money going into the market is going into altcoins, to a larger extent, not much between it. So there's a lot of money, and I always I've referenced this a lot recently when we think about when I've been trading cryptocurrency and how long I've been trading it for. For the vast majority of the time that I've been trading cryptocurrency, it's traded to a maximum of about, generally, for the last few years, less than half a trillion, about 400 billion. And then nowadays we have that amount going in and out of the market all the time. So we topped out over here 2.4, and then all the way break down to here 1. It's just ridiculous. The amount of money that's going in and out of these of the market is amazing, which basically means that some of these altcoins will pump massively, way more than they've ever pumped. When the market was down here, because the money was less. Now money comes in and out of this market like never before, and so of course some altcoins can just do. They could do thousands of percent, just because the sheer amount of money that's fluctuating within the market is way more than it's ever been. And if you can see, back down here, in 2018, 19, 20, you could get coins that do 10x's in a couple of weeks. Like Chainlink did that. Matic did a 5x, in a couple of weeks back in 2019. Did it a couple of times actually in the last couple of years, and then obviously we're not going to count when the money really started to pour into the market. But what I'm trying to say is there's way more money involved in the market going in and out of it now than there ever was before. And so when we think about the Bitcoin dominance, small drops down look small, but actually when we're thinking about it in terms of money, is enormous. But we are thinking that we might be on borrowed time. If we do break down from here, excellent. There'll be a lot of gains to be had, but certainly be on your back foot about taking profit into Bitcoin the lower we go, because this was an epic entry point for altcoins. I think there would be an epic exit point for altcoins, largely speaking. I'm not saying it can't break down from here, but if you can't, play the support and resistance for what it's worth, you wouldn't be trying to learn TA, or you wouldn't be using TA at all. You'd still basically essentially be gambling. Right. So what we were looking at, Harmony 1. Yeah, it's in a consolidation vibe. We need to take out the 200 the green 50 exponential to have a breakout. The consolidation makes this coin vulnerable to any kind of downtrend because it's not showing signs of strength. We're going towards what looks like the end of an apex, and if you think about this in terms of this is the 50 exponential, this is the 200 exponential, and this is the price that we'll be playing in. We've just got to break out or break down. At the moment, we're not doing either. We're still mainly ranging within those zones. A breakout would be great. The 4 hourly, doesn't give us any particular clue as what it wants to do in the short term. Maybe it will go up, maybe it will go down. That's still very much in line with that formation. And the hourly, again, we shouldn't really be dwelling on small-term time frames. I'll never get through to everybody's questions, but the hourly actually looks okay. It looks okay, but again, that's still very much in the formation, we've got the 200 exponential that we're being rejected from as well on the hourly. So you could base this on the hourly. What we're looking at there, 327 sats. Again, that's descending. So each hour that goes by, we're more or less going sinking down a sat. We could base this on an hourly, I suppose. We could look at this on the hourly and reclaiming that 200 exponential on the hourly, and not just breaking above it, but seeing it test as a support and have a reaction from it as a support would definitely be good. Right, where were we? So FET. So we're looking at all the IEOs today, then, aren't we? FET to BTC. Pretty much the same old vibe here, isn't it? On the hourly for Bitcoin. Bitcoin pairing actually looked quite good there on the Bitcoin pairing. This is our major area of support. We broke down below it. We've just poked our head up above it. We're talking 1555 sats, 1555, and at the moment on the 4 hourly, just above the center of this Bollinger Band, looks quite good, I would say, actually. Again, consolidating after this massive move up, and tailing up on these as well. Actually, this is a nice read on the 4 hourly for a bit of bullish divergence as well, so that actually looks pretty good. Let's just move it to a daily. So actually looking pretty decent there on the 4 hourly, and just like Harmony 1, tagged the green 50 exponential. Not looking very good, I would say, though, on the daily. So yeah, we're catching a good bounce. Where's the bounce going to take us? We're getting rejected here, here, and here. That's the 21 exponential moving average, so it's like a center of a Bollinger Band for crypto. I like to use exponentials as well as simple moving averages, but the exponential 21 is like the equivalent of the Bollinger Band center. Breaking above here would be a milestone for us to take out. So that's 1655 sats. We've got another 100 sats to go before we get back up to that level. Rejection. We've tested it 3 days in a row, so maybe that the amount of times that we've tested it should give us make us think that there is a clue that we might break it. But yeah, the oscillators don't look very good, I would say. And again, we're still mid downtrend. The weekly looks pretty good, actually, and still in line with the conversion baseline crossover here. So this is a continuation signal that we should be thinking about. As far as this is concerned, this was an epic entry point around this zone. The candle body close would have been here, and this is still in play. A tag on the 7 simple moving average, the most bullish of all tags, because we've not needed to go down any further. So more bullish than Harmony 1, more bullish than the other ones that we've seen. So actually, this one does look pretty good for what it's worth versus Bitcoin for the moment. And yeah, nothing really to worry about on this chart so far, apart from the looming threat of a financial collapse. But again, this chart so far has got a good continuation signal on a weekly, and as far as its relationship to moving averages is pretty good as well on the weekly. So the weekly shows that it is strong and should remain strong. And actually, we're above this major level of support. The next level I'll be looking for would be 2,600, 2,700 sats. Obviously, that's a long way away from here. That would be the next major area of rejection. And from here to there, 66% versus Bitcoin. So who knows what Bitcoin will be at the time. That's where I would be targeting the next big move if we get it. Remember, there's a lot riding in on China right now, which is not really what we want to hear. StormX. Let's have a look at that. StormX, one of my holds, actually. I got back in on this one at I don't want to look at Tether, do I? I got back in on this one at 66 sats. I think I'm a little bit down at the moment, so this is like usually a decent way to make some extra Bitcoin, in a short stab, but broken down here. So yeah, just below my entry point now. So holding above the Bollinger Band, not a bad place to be. But as far as the rest of this chart looks, it does favour more downside, potentially a bit, quite a bit more. So unlike the other charts we've just seen, this one's broken down all the way down to its 200 exponential moving average, which is not really. Oh no, it hasn't. No, it hasn't. That's my indicator still looking to click back into place. Where are they? Are they there? Yes, it is. It's just a bit of a glitch on the screen. All right, so the 200 exponential moving average, that's fine. For what it's worth, that should offer a decent bounce, but we're outside of this major box here. So this is where we were getting excited for when I was talking about it before, testing resistance, and then finally we broke out and hit our first area of our sell area. Massive breakdown, and now we've broken down below that box. So we're looking to repeat the same situation, really, and the way that it looks right now doesn't look particularly good at all. It doesn't look good at all. The fact that we've broken all the way down to the lowest form of moving average on this chart on the daily, which is an important time frame to look at it, doesn't look very good. However, for those with the big balls, the ones who want to catch knives, I suppose you could try and catch this knife. That's what it would be, though, and the reason they call it catching knives is because it's dangerous. You can cut your hands, right? So we could easily cut our hands on this 200 exponential, but we could also easily be buying the bottom. All right, so this is the idea, and if we were to do that, given what I was expecting from StormX anyway, if we were to move all the way up to that zone there, that's a 90% move, but my next target would have been up here, and this is what I'm looking to target anyway, or when I bought in at 66 sats recently, that's what I'd be looking to target, 125% versus Bitcoin. So that's not a bad move at all. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. Like I say, there's a lot riding on the market right now, based on China's decisions, and a Dixie increasing in value. No, a Dixie increasing in value doesn't necessarily have to impact this chart. It would impact your portfolio balance, versus dollars, pounds, or euros, or whatever. But this chart could still continue with this trend and still move up versus Bitcoin and outperform Bitcoin in an up or a downtrend. It might not reflect on your actual fiat balance, but on your Bitcoin balance, we could still be looking at catching a low here. Potentially, this could be a low that we're catching, but again, the chart isn't really offering us a great deal of encouragement. Fresh death cross from what I can see on the 4-hourly, but we are turning up here. What's going on over here? Bullish divergence as well, so maybe this one is a low and maybe this one is a decent knife catch, but again, if you catch a knife, be prepared to cut your fingers on that one. Right, let's have a look. What are we looking at here? Even mate, I've had some bots going mad on H-bar and on Atom, hoping we could leave these long term. What kind of targets would you look at? Let's have a look. So H-bar and Atom to BTC. Right, so that's a strong looking chart, very strong still. Best chart. You wouldn't really look at this and think there was anything wrong. Really, you wouldn't have expected anything. This would be you'd look at this and be oblivious to what's taken place in the market recently. So really good looking chart here, definitely. Golden crossed, trending up still. It's not exactly perfect with the way that it's using these moving averages, but it's still a decent guide to its direction. So if you're thinking long term, what, 12, almost 13% up for the day, not bad, versus Bitcoin, not bad. So this is where things get a little bit dicey, to be honest, because we're above the Bollinger Band here on the daily. We closed above there and we've opened there this week. We've had a very good reaction, which is so far so good. If we just move over to the money flow index on the weekly here, it's not the oldest chart in the world, but the previous peak, the last peak was 85, so it hasn't really been extremely high, which means that in cryptocurrency terms it could get a lot higher. We think of absolute tops when we peak above 90. So yeah, there was a previous peak over here, and it retraced from there. We're heading towards that previous peak as well. At the moment, we've not yet done it. So I think that long term this is probably going to work out okay, but a larger consolidation or a consolidation in general is probably likely at some point soon. This isn't a perfect signal. It's a bit messy, a bit contrived because of the size of the move, but we do have a conversion baseline cross on the weekly here as well, probably from this candle here. So whether or not we consolidate now or in a few weeks, then this one does look like it should outperform Bitcoin in the long term, so your bot is probably safe. It depends on the range, obviously, because we are looking at sort of big moves up and potentially big moves down. So long as your range can accommodate, all the grids up and back down again, it should be okay. I do like the look of it, and it probably will outperform Bitcoin in the long run, or at least for the rest of the cycle, provided we don't enter into a bear market. And what was the other one? H-bar. H bar to BTC. Let's have a look at that. Clear off this mess. So yeah, this looks like this looks like it's been a great. I don't know how long we've had the bot on for, but pretty good time. So yeah, we must have looked at this in the past. We've had our bottom level of support here, and we've launched from it now, which is great. Not massively overextended on the money flow index there, so not really pointing towards a top really, and not on the weekly anyway. Let's bring it down a notch to the daily, because the weekly looks fine. So yeah, if you've had this on from, yeah, this looks like good bot food, all the way up, all the way back down, and rinse and repeat basically. It's that is a fast and sharp consolidation. So it was already consolidating before the weekend, and then obviously with what's taken place recently has just accentuated that consolidation. 40% back down again from top to bottom. So far this is a very good reaction. So it's one hell of a push down the stairs. Consolidating already from a top. What was the money flow on this at the time? How high were we? 85. So not massively extended. Could have gone higher than that. It looks like we can get a bit of a support read on here as well. It's going to be a bit messy, the money flow index always is, so there could be further downside on the money flow index. That doesn't necessarily mean that it will correspond to red candles. It just means that we might be looking for a decent bounce when we touch this level. So daily looks good, weekly looks good, but yeah, I think both of these would probably work out quite well for you long term. And it's good that you're using bots for it as well, I'd say, because you're going to get big moves up and down, especially when it gets volatile like this. So probably bots are probably a good way to play it. Right, a quick analysis on Kin. Dare I have a look at Kin? What's going on with Kin? So Kin on Gate. We don't want the Gate IO, do we? That's not Kin to USD. Right. So this broken down a lot more than the last time we looked at it here. So a fair old bounce. This looks a bit like a dead cat bounce, to be honest with you. It doesn't look very neat or tidy. This consolidation is just continuing, and this what's happened recently has just made it even worse. Doesn't look very good on the daily. It's below all major moving averages. So it's going to be a difficult one to really talk about, because the move up was so big, so fast, so furious that the death cross took place over here, and so far the death cross has been playing out in the form of a downtrend, and then obviously with what's happened recently, it's just made things worse. We're going to have to, in order to consider or entertain an uptrend on this one, we're going to have to reclaim the 200 exponential on the 4 hourly to start with. So that's 0.0001, I would say. So a nice flat number. This is descending as well. So you could if you wanted to try and catch knives on something like this. It'd be very dangerous. I wouldn't fancy it myself. I wouldn't fancy it at all. We are turning up on the 4 hourly, but we're at the mercy of the market in general. So I'm not in favour of trying to trade something like this until it goes into an established uptrend. So yeah, we've broken down from we're continuing to consolidate really, but the consolidation is now turned into a downtrend. So in that respect, it's not really worth looking at until we reclaim at least that on the 4 hourly. So 0.000 or 0.0001. We call it 0.00011, but you've got to look at the moving averages rather than the price, because that's going to help you with the uptrend, and I don't really like the look of it right now. So catching a knife on that could be the best thing you ever did, but it would also, it comes with an enormous risk. Luna and Rune, let's have a look at those. So how's Luna doing now? Luna, it was the talk of the town, wasn't it, for a while? So I can see why. It's still looking okay. The uptrend is still intact. Divergence from at least the 250 is still intact. So last time we touched the 50, it was a very good reaction, big push up. We've tested it again yesterday, and a pretty decent reaction again. So far so good. Again, the market is slightly different now than it was a couple of weeks ago. But on this chart alone, yeah, that's a fair enough entry point and what should be a decent support. The 50 exponential and the 50 simple both merging in at around 6,000 sats. So I'd like to think that we move up from there. We're going to have to look at the 4 hourly just to, and normally we wouldn't really do this sort of thing, looking at 4 hourlies and stuff. But I guess when we're at the mercy of the market and we've broken down significantly across the board, I suppose we have to look at the smaller term time frames for any kind of telltale sign. And what do we see here? The smallest amount of bullish divergence on the 4 hourly, so that looks okay. It doesn't look too bad. So based upon the support on the daily and this very, very subtle bullish divergence on the 4 hourly, it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. However, still in a consolidation, and you could, not that they should ever really think about things in terms of this, but we have more or less broken out of that so far. So it looks okay. It looks like a breakout versus Bitcoin, but it's still just breaking out on a 4 hourly. We have to see how it performs at least over the next couple of days to see if it can then go into an uptrend. As far as the 4 hourly moving averages are concerned, there's no death cross here. We would be definitely avoiding it if we hold above 7,000 sats. We'd avoid it holding above 6,600 sats. So it does look okay, and it does look like it's coming out of a consolidation versus Bitcoin, so not too bad at all. Let's have a look at Rune. Again, we're just going to focus on Bitcoin pairing. So this one's different altogether. So this is a very choppy looking, horrible looking chart, really. I don't think it's very old either, so it's going to make it a lot harder. So as far as this chart is concerned, it's too choppy to make any kind of rash decisions on. We're below the 200 exponential on the daily. You're looking like we're getting a second rejection from it now, so you can't get bullish on anything that's closing below a 200 exponential. You can gamble on it if you wanted to, but you can't get bullish on it. And at the moment we're below it, and until we at least break above there, and then some, I would say, breaking above it and closing above it, retesting it for support, or retesting maybe even higher moving averages, I wouldn't be in favour of trying to trade this. Look, my famous last words, the reason I don't like, and you've all heard me say it before, the reason I don't really like young charts like this is because they don't have the time component to the moving averages or any of the indicators that make up a chart. All indicators are based around price, volume, and time. And when you've got a chart that came into existence, well, I suppose it's a year old. It's not the youngest chart we've ever looked at, but it's still pretty young. We could probably start trading it to an extent after a year, but it's not really got the time aspect to it, and that's probably why it looks so messy. But there's one thing to be said for young charts, is that their immaturity and the fact that they don't like to really respect moving averages and technical analysis makes them more volatile and potentially bigger upside. But what would I look at in terms of trading this chart? I would have to only enter into a position that's in a bullish formation. It's not in one of those at all at the moment. We are closing below a 200 exponential, which is it's technically bearish. We should be above that at least, if not above all the others. And at the moment they're all merging into one, and we're below all of them. So I don't really like the look of it. Can you explain what the difference is between coin futures margin? Between coin futures and margin, or are they basically the same thing? I had a look at margin on Binance, but it looks like the amount of leverage is fixed. I don't really know. I mean, coin futures is where you trade using your cryptocurrencies, whether it's XRP or Bitcoin or Ethereum as your margin, rather than basically your amount of tether or whatever it is that you're trading. So you're basically paid, or you're using your crypto rather than flat stable coins. Basically, I never use margin. It's just futures I always use. So that's what coin futures is. To be honest, I've never really looked into the margin aspect of it. Coin futures was most popular on Bybit, and then Binance, obviously jack of all trades, master of none, took it on, and they have way more options for you. But yeah, coin futures you use and gain more cryptocurrency coins, and standard futures is just flat boring old tether or BUSD they use as well. Right, 3x and 5. Yeah, again, I don't really know. I've never really looked at it. It's never been something I've wanted to do. So, there's no point. There's no point in me looking into something that I've no interest in using. I'm not much of a margin trader. I don't really see the point of it, to be honest with you, unless we're in an established bear market and then it becomes one of your major tools. And if that's the case, then great. And I would use coin futures for something like that, because I generally believe in crypto as a whole, and so why not accumulate on the way down, using leverage. But I actually don't know what the margin aspect of it is, to be honest. Right. Can I have a look at Coty? Let's have a look at that. I mean, it was only really in 2019 when I started using futures with crypto. Well, prior to that, I was trading crypto futures with pounds. Yeah, I was using derivatives and with pounds on a platform completely separate, a traditional market platform that allowed for derivatives. It doesn't anymore, unfortunately, but previously allowed for derivatives of cryptocurrency. It was taken off the market about a year ago, so you can't do it for crypto anymore. But yeah, I was happy with that. I would use derivatives and with fiat currency, and it worked fine. Until I discovered Bybit, and Bybit worked pretty well, and then I've never really traded much futures on Binance, to be honest. I do a little bit with my futures bot, but not much. I mainly use Bityard, and for what it's worth. It's not the greatest thing you've ever seen in the world, but I do like it. So that I mainly use USDT futures on there. But if we enter into a bear market, then I would certainly, because my motto is to never be all in, never be all out. So if my intention is to hold some crypto for better for worse, then I would definitely use coin futures in a bear market, definitely. Right, so Coty to BTC, looking pretty good here. Golden crossed, retested the green 50, and so far in that downtrend came to the center of the Bollinger Band, so looking really good there. Looking really good. What do we see here? Is this cancelled? Shall we consider this cancelled out? Because we've got a conversion baseline cross on the Ichimoku cloud from this candle body here. 26 periods behind, unfortunately, brings us here where we basically went through the price action. So could this be written off as a failed signal? Well, maybe it could, but based on the way that the chart looks quite good. So I wouldn't say let's play this for a conversion baseline cross, but it's definitely a bullish thing. But I wouldn't think look at this as your entry point and wait for an exit point. But it is good, and we're trending above all major moving averages on the daily here, 20% up for the day, so extremely bullish, massively bullish on the daily. So we're coming up to a bit of a peak. We are hitting a resistance for our previous top over here, which is where we are right now. Let's check the weekly, because this looks really good. The best one we've seen so far. Not very old chart, I have to say, but alright, so this looks even more interesting now. We are on the verge of creating a weekly conversion baseline signal, which is the best one that you could ask for, really. So we'll have to wait until the end of this week, unfortunately, to see if this is created. I expect it would be, but as far as price action is concerned, anything could happen within a week. Yeah. So we would wait till Monday and see if we have the blue cross the red. That would be a signal. That would be an entry point signal for a long-term trade and a continuation on wherever that candle body closes. And it doesn't tell you how far it will go. You could only do 20%. You could do a 10x. You don't know, but that would be an entry point based on that signal indicator. And I like it for what it's worth. And yeah, it's a really good looking chart, best one we've seen so far. But temporarily we were reaching a peak, I would say, only because we've come up to a previous top. We could easily come up to match these zones over here if we think about where we are in relation to previous tops. This marks a clear kind of toppy kind of vibe, which is where we more or less are right now. Toppy top, and then top a couple of days ago, and a top today, and we did poke our head above it ever so slightly. This is a great looking chart though, definitely. I would because I'm a little fearful of the market, not just because of what's happened, but because of my expectations of the Dixie. I would wait and see what happens throughout the week, and maybe get an entry point on Monday based on that signal, when we get it. And we probably will get it, but always play a signal when we receive it rather than what we're expecting to see. But it would take a hell of a dump for that to be cancelled out anyway. Please can we look at MTV? Yeah, never heard of it. We'll have a look. Qcoin. Right, okay, so the daily looking really good here. Definitely looking really good. You could look at this chart and you would be blissfully unaware of the turbulence that's taken place this week. So sailing up the 10 exponential the majority of the time, and even in the face of this downtrend that we've had in the market since Monday, still basically holding on to it. So that looks pretty good. It's sort of I suppose a consolidation kind of vibe going on with these oscillators. We definitely have a bearish divergence on the RSI as well, so that's something to think about, that we might be looking for a deeper test, maybe the center of this Bollinger Band, or the 21. So we're thinking maybe, what was it, 382 sats if it happened today. So that this chart I suppose looks a little bit misleading. That would be a decent drop versus Bitcoin. We're talking about a 16% drop potentially for our next entry point. But so far it's held up very well on this chart, and yeah, it's been front run before the 21 and the 20, so that's looking okay. We'll just check the 4 hours to see if there's anything to be concerned about on here. So just a consolidation kind of vibe really. You might not get that stab down. It might just continue up. The chart doesn't show any major warning signs other than the bearish divergence. And this is always the thing about this bearish divergence. You have to respect the fact that it's happening, and because it is happening, it means that there is a chance of the uptrend ending, right? Or at least a deeper dive down to at least the center of this Bollinger Band, which is here, 400 or 384, or worst case scenario all the way down to about 300. So that is possible. And if we don't think about the fact that we have bearish divergence, if we just ignore it, it's kind of silly. So there are cracks showing on this chart that aren't necessarily shown on the price action and the relationship to moving averages. This says something could change on here at any moment. But if you're already in this, then this is a steady away uptrend that's respecting the vast majority of the time the upper portion of these moving averages. So it does look really good. Just check the weekly. I know it's not very old charts. We'll check it all the same. Conversion baseline over here, so that's a buy signal on there. So this is one of those epic signals, isn't it? So from that level here to where we are right now, that's been a good ride based on that signal. So the candle body opened here to where we are right now versus Bitcoin 176%. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good signal so far, and it's not had a negative cross, nor has this touched price action. So for anyone who entered into the position over here, you're still good to go, I would say. But what's the weekly money flow index? Alright, so this is where things start to get a little bit worrisome actually. So the bearish divergence alongside the weekly money flow index, which is very high. It's very high. These are very good at marking tops, especially on weeklies. So we do have warning signals on this one, unfortunately now. And I would be looking to... if I owned this at this stage, I would definitely be looking to take some of it out. I'd be looking to sell some of this, probably sell it to Bitcoin, yeah. Because look, the last time we got up to this level, we got up to a 99. That's extremely rare. We don't see that very often. You kind of see that more frequently on Qcoin charts because they trade with less volume and it doesn't take much for money flow to come up to these levels. But we are trading at 13 Bitcoins in a 24-hour period at the moment, so it's not trading at a pittance. And we're reaching 96 to 97 on the money flow index on a weekly. So I think maybe with the bearish divergence and the fact that the money flow index is floating so high on a weekly, we might be thinking that yeah, maybe there is a temporary top in. And the last time we had a temporary top, or a top in general, was over here. And not to scare anybody out of a trade, but from the top to the bottom, that was April through to May. That was a 80% drop, right? So I'm not saying that's going to happen. But I think we might be looking at a potential top area. It might not be, but if I was in this trade, I'd be definitely looking to limit my exposure on that right now. Right, so what's happening? Hot or FET? So we've looked at Holochain. We've looked at FET. Let's have a look at Holochain. Not looked at this in a while actually. So this doesn't actually have a Bitcoin pairing anymore. They delisted the Bitcoin pairing because it was getting closer and closer to a single sat, which kind of jammed the order books. So let's have a look. So this one is on the weekly, just more or less just front run on this 50 exponential, and we're just above the center of the Bollinger Band, much like a Bitcoin relationship, to be honest with you. Too early to say how it's going to play out, but we have a negative cross. You can see a red portion of the histogram there ticking down, so it doesn't look particularly bullish. And again, it would be a knife catcher's kind of vibe going on here. Yeah, so a retest of the 200 exponential. So we having a bounce here. Could be a dead cat bounce, just because this is this is like the only major moving average of significance on a daily that could be, that anyone could dare buy, and that could just be what we're seeing right now. So the chart in itself doesn't look particularly bullish on the weekly, nor does it look bullish on the daily. We came out of this huge, very long-standing consolidation. Again, this was one of the best trades that I made last year. Back down here at 0.007, and sold it all the way up. Obviously, I'm not going to claim I sold the top. I mean, I sold all the way up. So, 35x from the entry point to the top. But for me, I think it's hard to say because I was selling all the way up how much I made in the form of X's, but a very good trade anyway, or a good entry point. But right now I don't really like the look of it, to be honest with you, so I would probably just expect a dead cat bounce from that one. Again, some altcoins are just going to get carried with the market, and especially something that's consolidated for such a long period of time, and with the market looking the way it is right now, and the Bitcoin dominance coming down to historical lows. Small cap, I know it might not be considered small cap or as small as it was in the past, but it's vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable coin, and it's not showing anything to write home about. I don't really want to give an opinion on it, especially a bullish one, because I can't. So I wouldn't want to mislead anyone into thinking that it's anything other than a dead cat bounce. But it's all about the reaction it's going to have from there. Is it going to reclaim more areas of significance? XRP 4/5 years. Well, is that just a statement? CC, your analysis on OMI. Yeah, so I've made a few videos on this one, but let's have a look how it's doing now. One of the smallest cap altcoins that I've got going in my portfolio, and one of the more recent additions, really. So, right, so yeah, so my entry points were generally within this area here, and it's working out so far so good, I have to say. Quite pleased with the way where it's moving. It has to hold above 0.5 cent, right? 0.5 cent's a decent milestone, where we had supports and the breakdown, top here, and we broke out above it, and we found a support on it here. Now, what's happening recently is that moving averages are beginning to cross over above it, which makes this area of 0.5 cent stronger. If it was just a reclaim of the, if we just broke above it and retested it, it's good, but it's not as strong until we get these starting to cross above. So this 0.5 cent zone is gaining more strength every day. So I do like the way that looks. We also had a very nice signal conversion baseline signal over here. So this was your entry point, and the exit point has yet not been told us to get out. We're still way above price action here. The blue is still above the red. We're good to go on that. Looking good on all the oscillators as well on the daily. So again, we could look at this and just argue that it just looks like your average shitcoin with its volatile moves. And with the 4 hourly, yeah, we've tailed down, but it looks like we're recovering from it already. Again, so long as we're above 0.5 cent, we're okay. If we break down below 0.5 cent, we'll probably go into a downtrend, because that's a major level of support that you don't want to have breakdown. So every day above 0.5 cent is a good day. Even coming down to retest it wouldn't be a problem, so long as we don't break and start closing candles below it. Worst case scenario, well, not the worst case, but the worst case bullish scenario is that we come down to test the center of this Bollinger Band. It is fast approaching the 0.5 cent zone though, so over the next week or two we should have all these major areas, 20 and the 21 moving average above the 0.5 cent zone, and that'll give it the strength it needs to probably move up to my next sell target, or what should I say, my first sell target. It's around about 0.7 of a cent. But I'm pretty bullish on this in the long term, but because it's such a small cap and it doesn't trade on many platforms, it does have a bit of a liquidity issue, so it's worth de-risking some of my exposure on this one, which isn't enormous, but it's getting more every day, obviously, with the moves that it's making. So I'd be looking for my first sell, front run it a little bit at about 0.7% and take 25% of what I own out at that level, and I think it'll reach there, but again, we'd start to get worried below 0.5%. But I like it. It's a good looking chart, actually, better than a lot of the ones that we've seen so far. Right, so we've looked at COTI CVX. Let's have a look at that. CVX. Right, another Gate.io classic. Right, so daily. Alright, we must have looked at this in the past because we've got our it's not a very old chart, so you've already heard me say it, but for any chart that doesn't even have a 200 exponential on it, you have to take what you see with a pinch of salt, really. So a massive rejection from there, all the way down to the 50 simple moving average. I mean, I don't like the look of it based on its, how young it is, but for what it's worth, we could be getting a decent bounce, or maybe just a dead cat bounce from there. It's too young to really have an opinion on. A fast approaching death cross coming, but we'll avoid it provided we're above $9.30. 4 hourly turning up quite nicely, actually. So it's in this instance, we want to move up another dollar. We have to get above that 50 exponential for an uptrend to really kick in. Knife catcher's delight, I would say, but it's too risky at this level, just in case the market breaks down and brings this down with it, because you could squeeze a Rizzler paper between the price action and that 200 exponential, and it's not going to take much for it to go down below there, and then it probably wouldn't take more than a few days for a death cross to form and then a downtrend to actually kick in. But for the moment, we don't have the death cross, so you can take it for what it's worth. That was a fair old breakdown, and it's a young coin, and it's trading at next to nothing. So there's a huge liquidity issue on this coin in general. But when something trades at something like that, what, $33,000 in a 24-hour period? For whatever reason, if this coin became popular, or if someone said something, or there was a tweet by of some significance came in, this could move massively. This is the sort of thing that these are what I know this is Gate.io, but this is why you see so many Qcoin gems, right? Because they have such small 24-hour trading volume. Their market caps are tinier, so I don't know what the market cap on this would be, but I imagine it to be small, maybe less than 5 million, or maybe even less than 1 million. I don't know. It's a very low trading volume on this one, and so for whatever reason, if it became trendy or popular, then this one will moon just by default of its liquidity. But for the moment, when we look at something like that and we look at something like this, is way too risky to enter into that, unless of course you're willing to put in money that you might not ever see again, and that's what I would say about that one. I think it's probably what I must have said last time. Is very, very nasty looking liquidity situation going on there. Right, so China, same as USA, print more money, hyperinflation. Well, I think China are probably going to sort this problem out, to be honest with you. I don't think they have any choice, because they would have a collapse across the board. I think they're going to have to, but then to expect hyperinflation anytime soon, I mean, what's going on with the Dixie now? I mean, this is what I mean. I know that we're all expecting a dollar to be worth nothing, right? But I would hold on to that thought, right, for a little longer than you might think. I don't think the dollar is going to go into any dramatic demise until 2023 or 2024, just based on the chart, right? And again, charts mean stuff. They do mean stuff. We all know how much money's been printed over the last 18 months. We all know that, but it hasn't stopped the chart from performing just as you would expect the chart to perform. So this is the monthly chart on the Dixie, looking pretty bullish. I have to say, this is a bullish looking chart, right? So even though I'm expecting a short-term rejection around 94 to 95, long term, or at least through next year, does look like it's going to reach post-pandemic levels, and who knows where it'll go from there. Maybe it'll go higher than that. Don't know. There are other factors at play. Let's just say there is a financial and economic breakdown, that would increase the value of the dollar by default. You know, people go into cash. Cash is king. So when we're talking about hyperinflation and all this, that, and the other, I mean, and it's, I think it's a bit of a, you know, it's like a trendy thing, you know, that floats amongst, you know, crypto enthusiasts. This chart doesn't show anything particularly worrying for the dollar in you know, over the next year to 18 months. It actually looks pretty bullish. So, but where it gets rejected from, I would expect it to probably make a lower high, but that doesn't mean that it can't go up significantly. And then by 2023, it'll probably go on to make a lower low, and then yeah, you'll probably be right. But I don't think we're going to see anything dramatic as for you know, in the form of dollars being worth, you know, next to nothing and hyperinflation. I don't see any of that taking place anytime soon, based on that chart. Despite everything that's happened throughout the pandemic and all this money printing that's taken place, it's not really impacted the chart on the long term any more than you'd think, really. Right, I see StormX was mentioned already. Can I have a look at Matic? Yeah, let's have a look at Matic, shall we? To BTC. So I'm only really looking at BTC pairs because that's the bigger picture, really. We want to see strength or weakness versus Bitcoin. Otherwise, we'd just go into Bitcoin, wouldn't we? So so far so good. I suppose an obvious reaction. We're getting the 200 simple crossing the 200 exponential, which makes this area like a decent strong support, right? So that's 2,473 sats as of today. Bottom of the Bollinger Band got tagged 2 days in a row, and a decent reaction with the market. It's moving up okay. Massive consolidation. We broke out. This is an accumulation vibe. The top of the accumulation being 3,300. Bottom, I would argue, is going to be these exponentials, 2,400. So that's a large accumulation range versus Bitcoin. We'll measure that out, 36%. This could be a decent bot, potentially. You could set up a trading bot with Matic around this area. It's the only thing you could do, really. We've got a red portion of the cloud over here, and that's not a signal in itself, but it's not bullish, I'll tell you that, but it's also not massively bearish. But if we think about the relationship we've got here to all major moving averages, we are technically, you know, below them all, really. So until we start to reclaim all of these, we can't establish an uptrend, and until we reclaim 3,300, we can't consider this a breakout into a new uptrend. We're still accumulating, and accumulations can be a dangerous place to be if we are looking at further downside in the market, because it basically makes it vulnerable. In a healthy market, accumulations will resolve to the upside quicker. In an unhealthy market, they will break down and continue essentially with a extended consolidation, or basically a downtrend, really. Not much to write home about on the MACD, but it's not bullish, I can tell you that. So there's not much in it, I'm afraid, on this one. The 4 hour looks okay for the bounce that we've had today, at least anyway. A rejection on the 50, so still playing out this death cross that we had from over here. So the downtrend looks more likely in this instance. Bollinger Band facing down, moving averages facing down. So that we have to see over the next few days how we react to retesting these zones here. So the 2,700 sat zone on the 4 hourly. This is going to change every 4 hours, obviously. We want to see if we can retest that and show that to be a support, or if basically this is like a fake out dead cat bounce type vibe and we break down from it. But it looks quite good for its reaction thus far. But on the long term picture, it looks a bit weird. The weekly, so the 20 weekly is still facing up, and the 21 exponential on the weekly is going horizontal. But every day above it is good. But again, you know, this is the breakout area, 3,300 sats. That's where we can get excited about Matic again. For the moment, we can't really get excited about it. It's in an accumulation in what could be an unstable portion of the market. And again, I love Matic. You know, Matic was one of the biggest trades of probably my lifetime, really. 1.2 cent. Bought that on the last big dip and sailed it up to well, I sold most at $1, but still that's just short of 100x. Well, that's not 100x, well, it's about 80x. Pretty good target there, pretty good trade. But you know, when something's done and from its absolute low to its absolute top, it's about 400x, right? So when something does those sort of moves, where do we expect it to go? How much can it really go? You know, from where it is right now, what's the top target for Matic? It can't be an enormous amount, you know. From considering how far it's gone so far, so and there was going to be a lot of whales. I mean, essentially, I could have been a whale if I'd have held on to it for. Yeah, I suppose I was kind of a whale from that trade, and there'll be lots of other people in that situation. There'll be a lot of Matic whales, and that basically, you know, if you were around for Matic in it, you know, back in the olden days when we used to be able to trade it on the channel, it was good. It was very tradable. You could do, you know, you could double your money quite easily, or at least do 50% quite easily on it. But you'd have to be very delicate with the way that you trade it, because it would dump, you know, fantastically. And I think if the market decided it was going to pull back or go into a bear market, you know, Matic will find the floor very quickly. I don't trade it anymore. I don't see the need to try and trade Matic anymore. It's done its business. Same with something like ADA. I look at ADA and go, it's, you know, everybody wants a piece of it, but they fail to recognise that it's already done a 1 or a 200%, so 200x. So how far can it possibly go from here? There's going to be a lot of people and a lot of profit. They're going to want to realise that profit at some point. You know, that's a big move. So someone wants to look at AI. This is probably the worst thing I've done, actually. USDT, the worst trade this year. And the reason I made the video on it is it was a bit of a disclaimer, really, because I mentioned it on the Telegram, and then I was like, oh, I probably should have kept that one to myself, because I bought it based on what appeared to be a strong support. Okay, so it's not a very old chart, so it kind of goes against most of the things. But I was saying, okay, look, so it does do big moves. It does do big moves, and we have been trading at just around 2 cents as a support. But unfortunately, the 2 cent area broke down, which means that we're in a downtrend until further notice, right? The downtrend will end for me, not when it starts to go up, but for when it finally on the 4 hourly reclaims the 200 exponential, which is today it's 2 cents. But you know, every day that goes by, or every 4 hours that goes by, this will tick down more and more and more and more. At the moment, it's still in a downtrend until proven otherwise. It doesn't trade extremely high at all. In fact, it looks like people are giving up on this one altogether. So it might, unless something special happens with this, this is also going to have a bit of a liquidity issue as well. So it doesn't look good now. It doesn't look good at all. In fact. Bullish divergence on the 4 hourly here, so we've got a stab here, lower stab here, lowest low there, higher low there. So there is hopium on the 4 hourly, but I wouldn't take it to the bank quite yet. The itchy cloud again on something that's not this old is also a bit misleading as well. But we are looking to maybe over the next few weeks and possibly get a green portion of the cloud form over here. If we look at the candle bodies, it's just basically a sea of red. It's a sea of red, and we could be heading all the way down to essentially 1 cent, which is the inception of the chart here, and I would expect it would be a do or die moment, really. It's the obvious place for people to buy it. I'd imagine it get front run, maybe 1.1, maybe 1.2 cents, and then it might start to go. That might be the bottom, just based on what we've got to offer on this chart. But for the moment, it's not looking very good. Yeah, the 10 exponential on the daily, the 50 exponential on the 4 hourly, basically pushing it down every day. So downtrend, and it's going to downtrend until it decides to not downtrend anymore, right? So there's really nothing to talk about on this chart. It's got to reclaim some serious milestones before we can get excited on that one. Right, EOS. Can we see EOS at $3? Well, anything's possible. EOS likes to do big moves down more than it does big moves up, I have to say. Let's have a look versus Bitcoin, because we broke down below that level of support, didn't we? So that's a big problem for EOS, I'd have to say. So that to me looks like a failed breakout. We were uptrending for a long period of time using this level as a support, and now this is clearly going to be a resistance. There's not much between it. It looks worse than it is, but it's still, based on this chart, not a very good look for it. Moving averages are all in the opposite position. 200 is at the top, the 10 exponentials at the bottom. This is the opposite of what you'd want to see in any kind of uptrend. We can only hope that something like the bullish exchange does something for the chart. So we just extended that support line there, and what we see is that the support line basically corresponds to the bottom, more or less, of where we came down to today. So maybe this is the bottom area. So what that does for a tether pairing or a dollar value, I couldn't tell you, but based upon this chart versus Sats, you know, we might come down for another stab to test it. 900 Sats, 929 to be specific. Sats would be a decent area for a knife catch, unless it's already been front run and this is the reaction we're getting from it now. Doesn't look very nice. It's got a long way to go. It's a pretty awful looking chart, I have to say. But buying at supports, catching knives, this is more or less one area that you could try that at. Breaking down front below here though, yeah, of course, you could go a lot lower than this. This is a strong support, but you know, if a strong support breaks down, then expect almost a price discovery on the way down. But so far, you know, that's for you, all those knife catchers out there. If it breaks down, yeah, $3 and God knows where could happen after that. Right. Can you explain what your hi CC? Can you explain what your 9 chart add-ons are and why they show and what they show? Well, that's quite a lot to answer, really. What do you mean? All my indicators are here. Yeah, these are just they're mainly just the moving averages. Really, you've got the 21, the 10. These are exponentials: 21, 10, 50, 200, 200 simple. The Bollinger Bands, Ichimoku Cloud, 7 simple, and 50 simple. They're all the moving averages plus the Ichimoku Cloud. If you want to know more about these, then you can just Google them, what the exponentials do and what the Ichimoku Cloud does. There's plenty of information out there. Other than that, you can join the Patreon. I do have tutorials about why I use them and what I use them for. £7.50 a month, can't really go wrong with that. You can join these live streams twice a week. It's all there for you. But for me to go through it now, I mean, it'd take up quite a large portion of the stream. We've only got 45 minutes left. Right, where are we? There's quite a lot of questions here, isn't there? I'm never going to get through all these in 45 minutes. Right, where are we? I've lost where I am. Jesus, there's a lot of questions here. Right, there's no way to really prioritize these. I'm just going to have to float my way down to EOS and XRP. So we'll look at XRP then, shall we? XRP to Bitcoin will take away some of this noise. Right, that's a decent reaction to XRP. You know, we trade XRP on this channel, or we talk about it every now and then when it does something. And something we've always said over the last couple of years is that it loves the 200 exponential. It has a very strong relationship with it. Every time we have a breakout and people start to talk, I make a video prior to a breakout usually, because it does offer very good signals. XRP, you know, every now and then when it wants to do its move, it doesn't do it out of the blue. They do. You know, for the people who watch my channel and on my Telegram and Patreon, you'll have to vouch for me. I generally do manage to call some of the big breakouts for XRP, and most people on the sidelines will stand and watch and go, it takes them all by surprise. But they're all there to see on the chart, and it's all on the channel for you to fact check. But one thing I've always said, you know, and it becomes clear mostly on Tether, but it'll still have some relevance on Bitcoin pairing, is that whenever we have a breakout, it will always give us an opportunity to get back in on the 200 exponential. XRP loves it on an uptrend and on a downtrend. The 200 exponential is very important to XRP's existence, right? Whether it's uptrending or downtrending, it'll always come back to say hello, and that's what it's done today, and a very decent reaction as well. So breakdown below it yesterday, a retest of it yesterday, and a very nice reaction from it today. So this could have marked the bottom for it, and I've kind of studied the XRP market cycle. I do expect decent. Yeah, it's not going to make you a millionaire, but I do expect decent moves from it towards the end of this year. It's one of the oldest altcoins out there, and so it has had a full 4-year market cycle of its own that runs in parallel to Bitcoin's, obviously, but behaves in a completely different way. and the latter part, the very last part of its market cycle is the most aggressive, and that's what we'd be expecting. This has been a more bullish market cycle than the ones it's had in the past, not in terms of gains but in terms of moves. The amount of moves that it's had, it's been the best market cycle, better than the last one. Like I say, not in terms of gains but in terms of consistency and breakouts. So I would expect every time we come down to a 200 exponential, whether it's on a daily Tether, dollar, or Bitcoin pairing, that it's always an opportunity to buy. Doesn't mean that we can't break down below it or hover around it, but they do like to meet, and it's always an area where you'd want to entertain a potential entry point for XRP. So it's worked out so far so good for XRP. From let's just say from today or yesterday. So it's 7 or 8% move. Testing the 50 exponential, fair enough. Looking probably for a rejection there. You probably get another entry at a lower place, but you may not. There's no buy signals on it other than the fact that it likes to bounce from the 200. The 4 hourly looks pretty good, definitely above all major moving averages apart from the 200, where we would need to reclaim to go into a sustained uptrend. We are death crossed, obviously, and let's have a look at the RSI here. So yeah, nothing to write home about on the RSI on there, so nothing massive there. And just check the weekly just very briefly. So this is where things are starting to get interesting for XRP, because this is the massive downtrend. Most altcoins look like this versus Bitcoin. The itchy cloud has basically been red the entire time, and when we break above or close above the Ichimoku cloud, we do have the opportunity to make a very big large move. And I think the biggest move, the next big move for this will be when we close above the itchy cloud. We'll probably look to launch all the way up to this 200 exponential, so maybe get up to 4,400 sats or thereabouts. I mean, this is descending on a weekly basis, but this would be my next major target for it. But are we looking to do that now? Maybe we are. It's not the worst looking chart, I have to say. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen, and in line with its its market cycle. That's not the biggest move anything will ever do in a crypto market, but it's okay for this to move from here to there, because this means it'll outperform Bitcoin by 100%. So, but whether you buy now or if you remain on the sidelines and skeptical, which I don't blame you. XRP is not for everybody. Do you know what I mean? It's not for everyone. But that 200 exponential tag today could have been the low. And I think on my channel, I made that video about the next dip for XRP is the one that's worth buying, and that's where I spoke a lot about potential of the Dixie breaking out and the shock in the market, and so we've got all of that, and so gut feeling would tell me that like I said, when I anticipated the drop for the market in XRP based on Dixie strength, then yeah, I mean, following on from that video, expecting that drop to basically the upper 80s, which is what I said the lowest target would be, that's where we hit. I suppose, if we go by that video I made last week, where I said that we're looking for a drop in the market and we might be looking at the upper 80s for XRP, and that will be the last dip that basically will spark the continuation of the bull market and the bull run for XRP, then yeah, I'll have to die by the sword. That's what I said. That seems to have been what's happened so far, and so I would be expecting a good reaction from it now. I mean, like I say, I don't say these things for no reason. I mean, that's what I expected, that's what's happened, and so hopefully what I continue to expect is a good reaction from that dip, and that was the dip that should be bought. Right. So XRP to USDT, should we just have a look at it for fun? Because there's no way I'm going to get through all these questions, so let's just have a look at that, because we do like XRP on this channel. So yeah, in relation to this weekly, it's above the center of the Bollinger Band, which is a good place to be. We're very much like Bitcoin in the way that we want to turn down and go negative. We're 10-11% up, which is good for something like XRP. It's a good reaction, definitely. And so yeah, there we go. So a tag of the 200 exponential, upper 80s, which is what I expected. So a good. So far so good. Like I say, the plan so far is working out. It's definitely working out. The only variable that could change this is the inevitable continued breakout of the Dixie to these higher levels. Yeah, it doesn't have to bring crypto down, but it could, and it probably would, but it doesn't have to, right? So they're not massively correlated to the extreme. It doesn't mean that Dixie go up, Bitcoin go down. It's not that simple, but it does offer downwards pressure. But I would probably say that the reaction we've had so far has been a bit of an overreaction, and we've probably hit sort of targets that probably shouldn't have been hit. So we're kind of oversold in a way at this level. We've already hit the targets that I expected to hit, despite the Dixie not hitting the targets I expected that to hit. So it's not perfect analysis, but so far it's worked out okay. So got to live, it's working out okay. Definitely working out okay. There's nothing more to say about that. Right, QNT. Let's have a look at that. It's a Bitcoin. Let's have a look at this. Right, so not very old looking chart. Fair old reaction. Just moving up to what was previously our weekly resistance of this 10 exponential on the weekly. So that's something to be not concerned about. That's not a weekly. That's a daily, isn't it? So all right. It looks like a weekly, doesn't it? Because it's such a small chart. So because it's such a young chart, there's not much I can really say about it. We'll bring it to an hour, a 4 hourly chart. 4 hourly chart still consolidating from its massive big push up. So a retest of more or less the 200. So I would wait to see if this goes into another uptrend. To be honest, the uptrend will begin above this 50. We start to get the crosses of all the smaller term time frames, and get the. It wouldn't take much, to be honest with you, to get these in the right place. Maybe a few more days at this price action or above. Definitely this time next week, as long as we don't break down from this current level, we could easily spark another uptrend on this one. But for the moment, it is definitely a wait and see, because this is essentially a resistance. And so I'm not suggesting anybody buy anything. I would never do that anyway. I'm not a financial advisor. But if I was to look at this chart and go, all right, it looks like it wants to recover. However, this is a resistance, and so let's expect a rejection from it and see where we go from there. Technically, a consolidation could easily go into a downtrend, and this is potentially a rejection here, because that's where we, that's what we're looking at. So I'm not in favour of it, but it's if it does break out of this is what we're looking for. So we'd just slice right through the price action more or less like this. This is just a rough guide, and we'd look for a breakout from where we are pretty much right now. You could also look for a breakout on the RSI, and we might be looking at that right now actually. So we'd be looking for a breakout on the RSI. So this is only a 4 hourly. This isn't going to continue to the moon, but it's a start, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it's not massive, but we want to see a bit more move up on price action and RSI, and we could consider this to be a breakout, and then we could get excited about it. So maybe we are on the verge of a breakout there. ACC's been a long while. Yeah, I've not seen you in a while. What's your thoughts on Cell and Eons, Sheep and PundiX? Right, so there's a lot of questions there, so let's have a look. Cell, we'll do Cell. Alright. No, I don't know if that's the one you mean. Was there 2 L's on it, or was it just a single L? 2 L's. I don't know if that's the right one. Eons to BTC. Let's try that one. Wow, I don't know where you're finding these things. Alright, let's have a look at it. My hyper trader only finds things that are on, the major exchanges really. So it's difficult to say. Right, so let's just make sure that this is all in the right place. Sometimes these moving averages click as they load through, and they're not. It's not. Things aren't exactly as they seem for the first 10 seconds on this. Right, so it does appear that there is a death cross on the 4 hourly. Fine. We're getting rejected on the centre of the Bollinger Bands. Okay. Turning up ever so slightly here. We've got no bullish divergence or anything on the 4 hourly, so it doesn't look amazing. I think one thing we could take from this chart is that this was because it moved on to Coinbase, right? And so we got to buy the rumor, sell the news, and basically came back to where we were before. it doesn't look particularly bullish. It doesn't look like anything, to be honest with you. And we're below the 200 exponential on the daily, so it's not in a bullish situation. I have to say, doesn't mean that it can't move, but it's not in a bullish situation. So there's nothing bullish about it right now. It's been sold off after the Coinbase news, so I wouldn't be too excited about that one, I'm afraid. So there's nothing really to say about it, I'm afraid. I can't really say anything else about it. Pundi X. So there is a Bitcoin pairing. So we'll look at that. I think this one's looking pretty sorry for itself. Yeah, it's gone into further downtrend now versus, well, everything. So again, they're a very young chart. So is there any reason for us to bounce around here? Not really. We have a fair bit of support here and a breakdown from here. So this, I suppose, could mark a potential bottom for it. But we are below all major moving averages on the daily, with a red portion of the cloud over here. We're below the 0 point, still moving down. No signs of anything bullish on the daily there. And on the 4 hourly, we are turning up, actually. So maybe we do get a decent reaction from here. Looking for a move potentially only up to around 3,150 sats, basically the center of the Bollinger Band there, so a little bit further to go potentially. And if we did reclaim there, then yeah, that would be an excellent knife catch, and that would be the bottom. And then we would start to look at to moving up towards the 200 and or the 200 simple here. So we're still waiting for this one to go into an actual uptrend, to be honest with you. All of this area is not what I would entertain as uptrend. I bought into this one pretty much at its level that it's at right now, to be honest. With the concept that it was traded extremely aggressively when it was before the token swap, and it's not how I would normally trade, but something I've noticed is when something does do a token swap, it gets sold off instantly like this. Stormex and eGold were a good example of that. And then what eventually happens is that it starts to trend, and then its previous volatility repeats into the chart. Now, that is a theory that I'm willing to see if it plays out. It's not anything that you can take from this chart. It's something that I've noticed after token swaps from aggressive performers. Elrond turns to eGold, and when it became eGold, it sold off from $40 all the way down to what, $6 or $7, and then it became the monster that it is. Stormex did the same thing, rallied massively when it was Storm play, and then token swapped, sold off, then did massive moves, moved to Stormex, did massive moves, and so I am looking for the same thing to happen on here, and it's just a theory, right? It's just a theory. And so I suppose this looks like a decent area to try and catch a bounce from. But if it breaks down from here, then yeah, we got some significant lows to discover. But like I say, it's a wait and see if my theory is true. Right, where are we? Thanks for opening up the stream. No worries. Like I say, if you like this kind of vibe, then there is a link for Patreon. You do these twice a week, basically, so Wednesdays and Saturdays. XRP, I'm all in. 10,000 XRP at 18 cents. Good vibe. I think most of mine was between 17 and 23 cents. So well played. EOS, we've done that. We've done these. What about AI? We've done that. Can you look at DAG? Yeah, let's have a look at that. Not dog. Bloody hell. DAG. Some Qcoin gems coming up, are they? Is that what we're looking at? Is this a Qcoin gem? Potentially is, yeah. So the daily holding its structure so far so good. I mean, let's take it for what it's worth. I mean, it's rallied already, hasn't it? I mean, it's how far are we up already? Right, so yeah. I mean, this is a rare delight to see, and I wish you'd have told me about this in February. All right, so this has been pretty epic. So the last retest of the 200 exponential, which is normally, like I say, we're talking about some of these coins now, aren't we? Where we're coming down to test 200 exponential and go like, you better hope that we hold from here. So from there to here, that's been 500% versus Bitcoin over 100 days. That's a really good move, right? and obviously has been higher than that. So far though, consolidating from this zone here, what's the money flow index reading? How high were we over these levels? 92 there, 96 here. Alright, so it looks like it wants to turn up again, I have to say, based on the daily there. Doesn't look like anything to be particularly afraid of. Let's just check the weekly. It's in a good relationship with the moving averages on the weekly as well. So despite obviously moving up so massively from the bottom to where we are right now, it does look like it wants to continue with its ride. Bearish divergence on the weekly, so remember what I said about this. When you get bearish divergence, you have to accept that one day this trend will end, and this could end tomorrow, right? It could. You know, sometimes you get 3 stabs and you're out, 4 stabs and you're out, 5 stabs and you're out. So far we've had 2. Are we looking to get a third, or are we going to break down from here? That's always the question. But we have got 2 ticks there on the RSI, on the RSI there of bearish divergence. So let's just accept that as a warning sign. But as far as the rest of the chart's concerned, it looks pretty good to me on the daily and on the weekly. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that we go on to make another high. And keep our eye on this trend line on the RSI, see where we go. Usually I would want to try and scale out, I suppose, if we start to see bearish divergence, especially on something that trades on KuCoin that's already done several 1000% in in a short space of time. We are potentially on borrowed time already. Right, let's have a look. Fed has announced tapering. Right, fair enough. That's fine. Let them taper. To be honest with you, like I say, I know that fundamentals mean something, but to me, charts are the most important thing. And the Dixie looks clear to me that it wants to go up in the short term, down, when it reaches those levels, and then up throughout next year, and then down significantly from 2023. So you could base I could pretty much base any investment around that, really, which is that there will be a bear market next year for everything. There'll be a consolidation across the board for everything next year, based around the way that the Dixie looks like it wants to perform on like a monthly chart, for instance. So, someone's giving me £5. Excellent. Seller. Let's have a look at the seller. Right. So whether or not they taper or not, the chart says everything to me, anyway. And this is what I always say about anything, whether it's FUD or Moonboy Talk or fundamentals or mainnets or anything really. I go, alright, fine, buy the rumor, sell the news, or the FUD or whatever. It generally, fundamentals don't mean much to me. It's all about the chart, and the chart generally tells us for the most part what we need to know. But I'm not saying there's nothing out there for fundamental analysis. This is if you're into fundamentals and you've got the time for that, then you will make more money than any trader, because you basically have mastered the art of valuing something before it's been valued. And for anyone who does fundamentals, right, they'll be absolutely loving it when they go to something like the decentralized exchanges where these coins come on for the first time. That's where you make some serious money if you've got the time to break something down and work out its true value, and then you go on to something like Uniswap or any of these things and pick up not just pieces of crap, but things that you've read about and broken down and evaluated effectively. You will make way more than any trader can do on a chart. There's only so much a chart can tell you. Do you know what I mean? It tells you direction, strength of trend, momentum, all these sort of things, weakness or whatever. But fundamental analysis you will make way more money, way more money if you're good at it. Right, let's have a look at this. Just clear up some of this noise here. So right, seller to BTC. Right, so it's looking good. So we're above this area of breakout. So this is the resistance. We're above it. We kind of retested it, and so far we're all right. This is a spinning top. So for the moment, this is a will it or won't it. go up or down from here, because we're outside of the Bollinger Band and we're having a candle that looks like this. I know we're only Wednesday, anything could happen to this candle. It's not been closed yet, so we're speculating as to what this candle's going to do, but at the moment it's a spinning top and it could go either way. We're not overextended by any means on the money flow index. We do have bearish divergence on the RSI to a large extent, so a little bit worrisome there. Let's bring it to a daily, see what the daily says. So holding on nicely to the 10 exponential, just about to cross over on the MACD, quite high I suppose on the money flow index, but not massively. The nature of the way that the chart looks versus Bitcoin still looks pretty good. So you wanted to know if it is going to go to 30 cent. We're going to have to go to a tether pairing for that. We'll work that one out. So 30 cent is what you're expecting. Oh, I think that was your question. Let me just go back to it. You see potential C 30 cent, but much higher of the C bridge, I think. All right, so there's an element of fundamental analysis in there, which is something that I've never been very good at. So I don't know what it means. Don't know anything about it. I can only really look at the chart. But what I can tell you on the chart is, last week we got a conversion baseline cross, which is great. It's above the cloud, which is also great. This is also above price action ever so slightly, which is great. And this needs to close. We need to close this candle body at this current level or above the previous top. Otherwise, this is cancelled out uptrend signal, right? But it's a very good signal if we can get above it. Once this week closes, obviously we have to have our closure above the previous high. So we'll just mark that off anyway. And this isn't anything other than making sure that this signal remains intact, right? We can go down in the short term so long as we close this week above this candle body over here. Did we have the same thing going on the Bitcoin pairing? I'll just check. No, it's incoming. The blue and the red are on the same level, right? So we need to see where we are at the end of the week as well on Bitcoin. But if we get this uptick, which we probably will get, but we'll have to wait to the end of the week, Monday morning basically, to see if we got that signal, then this would be a great signal to have on this chart too. So it does look good. I do like it. So we're expecting what, a 2x on this one, aren't we, if we wanted it to get to 30? Well, based on this signal, if this remains, I can't say that, I don't know where we will reach. If we will reach that, we could do a fib and look at the retracements and the extensions. So I do it from the previous top to the previous bottom. Then yeah, I mean it is a lot to ask. Rejected on this fib here, 15, and there's nothing to say that it's not possible. On the weekly, it's shaping up to form a really good signal, and then could go into an overdrive turbo mode, definitely. But money flow index was almost at 90 there, so I would much prefer to wait and see how this candle closes and this signal, if this signal forms next Monday, before we talk about it making more breakouts. But we have already so far closed above our previous high, and we are forming what would be a really good signal on the weekly versus Tether, and another signal potentially on Bitcoin pairing as well. So actually I think you're right. I think we could be looking at decent moves throughout the year, provided we don't go into a bear market, for instance, which I don't think we will. But excuse me, I want to see how we close the week before we make any decisions on that's going to do a 2x, for instance, or a 200% move. VRA bottomed out and starting its upward trend. Let's have a look at VRA then, shall we? Because I'm in on that one. I've got a fair bit of that, and it's doing very well. But I've noticed that it's slowed down as well. But it has rallied significantly. Alright, so yeah, we've got a bit more analysis on this one based on what I've been looking at. So we'll get rid of the itchy cloud as we don't really need it. We've already got our signal in here. We're getting close to it being cancelled out. I'm just going to get rid of it so I can look at this without the distractions. Right, so versus Bitcoin, we've come back to the lower range of the pitchfork, so we wanted to remain above it. These pitchfork areas are are essentially sort of mapping out our direction, and we could easily come back down to the bottom area here. So we're talking 5,300 sats. That could easily happen and remain in an uptrend, I would say. But for the moment, we tried to reclaim it and was rejected from it. So that's just the weekly. Let's have a look at the daily, see how the daily's performing. So, right, so the daily consolidated massively from the 9,000 sats mark, and perked up quite nicely, and then consolidating. We're still consolidating from this high, and this is what we're looking. So it's like I say, when we draw these diagonal trend lines, they're nothing more than a guide, right? It's not the be all and end all, but we are still consolidating and not really showing any signs of strength, I would say. The 50 exponential is where we found our bottom potentially, but this, like I say, you could look at this as how we're going to play this out. We're going to be playing within this range, and if we break out or break down, that would be great. We could also look at the RSI and look at are we going to break out on this of the RSI. We've got a downtrend on the RSI, which is fine. Downtrend on the consolidation of the price action, that's fine. We want to see a breakout of this diagonal trend line of consolidation and map that alongside a breakout of momentum, and that will tell us that we're going to go up again and start to do some mooning moves. But for the moment, I'm not expecting anything from it based on what we're seeing right now. Still basically consolidating from that top, and this was a very good rally, right? This is a very, very good rally. Look at the size of that. That's very high volume for a Qcoin chart. With Bitcoin, most things don't trade, with that. That's huge, right? That's huge. And so it would take a lot for it to break out from here. But again, this is all we're going to map. We're going to map the RSI breakout and match that with a breakout of the trend line here, and then that should be good to go. And I'll be looking for it to reclaim not just this portion and above 9,000, but then make its way up to the center of this pitchfork. So we'll be talking 12,000 sats on the next move. But that would only be relevant when we break out from here and here at the same time. At the moment, it doesn't look like it wants to do that quite yet. We'll keep an eye on it though, definitely. And like I say, I'm not really selling anymore. I sold some at 9,000. You might think I'm, talking rubbish there, but that was a clear area to take some profit at. And the rest I will let ride. That was my investment taken out plus some. The rest will ride and see where it goes. That's usually my normal strategy. Right, there's so many questions here. I'm just going to start picking some in the dark, unless I get some more generous donations. But let's have a look. So there's a few people want me to look at what's the crypto market on BOSS token. BOSS token. Let's have a look at what is BOSS. Is this are these are you guys spammers? Are you bots? What is BOSS? If this is some kind of scam that's bombarded my so yeah, nothing coming up on there. I think don't take it. Don't be offended if I'm calling you a bot, but never heard of it and it doesn't come up, so I couldn't tell you. Right, check out zero weightings. BOSS token again, right? Yeah, so it sounds like there's a lot of bots talking about BOSS token here. So very interesting to see. Yeah, live like a boss, right? Yeah. So the bots have invaded my chat here. I have just checked it. The guy zero waiting on YouTube. It's his coin. Right. Right. Cool. Right. Yeah. So let's leave BOSS token alone. Sounds like it's a scam, and we will leave that alone. Right. Let's look at ADA. A legitimate scam. Only joking. Only joking. Right, so ADA versus, let's turn these back on. BOSS token. Classic. Right, so ADA consolidating from its high, still in a consolidation pattern. Again, if we want to map out, where this consolidation is going to end, we can think about it in terms of downtrend and also downtrend. So we'll be looking at seeing a breakout of the RSI with the price action. This is again versus Bitcoin. So Yeah, don't expect anything major to happen until we break out, with that kind of situation. As far as being caught on particular moving averages, it's had a poor reaction so far to this downtrend. So far, it wasn't supported on the Green 50. I know we're above it right now, but it wasn't. We haven't had a decent reaction on the daily, unfortunately. So it's not that worries me or anything, but I prefer a chart that's neat, because it means that it's being traded appropriately. If it's not neat, it means that there's probably more sellers than there are buyers, which means that it could go down further than rather than being caught and bouncing from decent levels. But on the weekly, I suppose, the consolidation does look a little neater. We've got a decent reaction on the 10 exponential from last week, and so far, we're above that as well. So consolidation is still in play here, and we just base it around the daily. Really see if we break out on the daily RSI and break out of this. Out of this downtrend, which again it's messy. It's not a bad looking chart, I have to say. It's not. It's just consolidating, but the nature of a consolidation in the face of a Bitcoin consolidation and maybe even a Bitcoin breakout could take sats away from this, and we could head lower. Honestly we could, but for the moment we've just got to keep our eye on it. There's no entry point unless you're a knife catcher. And again, it's like the same kind of vibe with ADA that it is with Matic, as far as I'm concerned. You trade it, when it was low value. It's not low value anymore. It's already done massive moves, and so what more can we expect from it? Is investment better elsewhere? Unless you're already holding on to something like this from low levels where you're basically loving it, your investment's doubling every other day or halving it, every other day because you're in it, let's just say 2, 3, 4, 5 cents or whatever, then yeah, you might as well hold this until the end of the cycle. There's no reason why this can't continue to go up. But is it going to go up by another 100 or 200%? I probably is, but that's just based upon my expectation of the market as a whole. And I say it every week that ADA is a coin with a lot of it's trendy, isn't it? Everybody wants it. It's been bigged up by Benjamin Cowen. Is that his name? He loves it, and so he's got a massive following. People are going to want to buy it, but and hold it. But I'm not massively in favour of it from this level. I think there's definitely more opportunity in the market than buying ADA. ADA might be a safe bet, but with smaller returns than you would look for on other things. So let's have a look at Bepro for an example of that. So Bepro could be awesome, or it might be awful. So far it's had a good day versus Bitcoin, but it's actually had a poor reaction from these resistances so far. Top and a double top, and so far we're below the 200 exponential, which is no place to be. So this is out of all the shit coins, I had 3 shit coins on my radar in that downtrend since May. This was one of them, VRA another, and OMI was the other. And so this was doing okay for a short period of time, but it's certainly gone back into shitcoin mode. Let's measure this from the top to here. So 50% down so far. Okay. As we're below all major moving averages, I can't, unfortunately, be massively bullish on it. I can't be bullish on it at all. We have to think about it in terms of the same old, are we looking for a breakout, and how are we going to determine that breakout? It's going to have to be a breakout of RSI and price action together, combined. So yeah, it's had a nice bounce, a dead cat bounce probably. There's nothing really to stop it going further and going into price discovery, into shitcoin mode again. So I'm not a fan of it at the moment, despite holding quite a bit of it. 4 hourly. Yeah, so again, the 4 hourly, there's nothing more to say on it really. Death cross here, we're going to downtrend until we start to reclaim some of these zones. On the 4 hourly, we are already starting to reclaim the Bollinger Band center, but there's not much to it. The larger picture is going to be told on our daily, and the daily wants us to. The Bollinger Band is basically going down at the same speed as this descending consolidation trend. So milestones we have to complete is 200 exponential to begin with, and then this breakout from here. There's no signals on this one to say anything other than we're going to continue to consolidate versus Bitcoin. And again, when you compare this to VRA, I mean, the trading volumes, it's not nothing, but it's not much either. It's not much. It's pretty low, and it doesn't trade across the board on many exchanges. So it's just a dead cat bounce right now, and I would probably, you know, if I was to put my hand on my heart and on my trading heart, and put my trading hat on, I'd probably say that we're looking for a rejection here. But if this breaks and we do reclaim that, then great. There's every chance that we will start the uptrend from this dead cat sort of bottom bounce zone here. It's a risky one. This has always been a risky one, and I've always been in trouble on my videos that I make about this when I call it a shitcoin. But it's a shitcoin for a reason. The reason I call it a shitcoin is because it basically broke down by 95%, yeah, and it could have easily gone down even further than that. Could have gone down another 60% from this low, and it didn't. So there's no reason to suggest that it can't go down further than this, because it is, unfortunately, it is a shitcoin. If it works out in our favour, excellent, and we can all be happy. But until then, it's a shitcoin until further notice, and we'll have to just accept that it is a shitcoin and expect nothing more than shitcoin behaviour. Unfortunately, with a chart that looks like that, this could be a rejection area from it now, and then we continue down from here. Unfortunately, I know it's hard to say, and look, I own it, so I'll be suffering with the best of you, right? In all fairness, I think I'm still in profit, but the way it looks right now, I don't think I'll be in profit for very long. Right, cheers for looking at DAG. Can I have a look at LTX on Qcoin? Yeah, let's have a look at that. And I think after that, I will call it a day. LTX versus Bitcoin. So as you have given me a generous donation, we'll look at both pairs. Right, so let's have a peep. Let's just digest this chart. So it's not a very old chart. So first of all, we have to accept that it's young charts are, you know, reckless by nature. I use the analogy of saying that, you know, just like a teenager doesn't listen to any authority and goes off and makes stupid mistakes all the time, so does a young chart, right? It needs a bit of maturity in it before it can really get with the program and be traded properly. But for what we can see here, it's in an uptrend from this bottom, and it's had a decent retest of exactly the center of the Bollinger Band, which is where it's had decent reactions from the last pullback. So a big move up, retest, good reactions up here, big move up, retest here. So that would be an obvious place to try and get in on this one. And as far as the trend is concerned, all moving averages are in an appropriate position, so it suggests it should continue on the daily. We do have obviously the classic bearish divergence, and this means that, again, you know, not to scare anybody, but it is on borrowed time. And that doesn't mean that it's going to just, you know, disappear into the abyss. That's always the risk you take on a chart that looks like this, that has, you know, that isn't old and has bearish divergence on a daily. It is always the risk you take. It could mean that all we do is just come down a little further down here, which is obviously a fair drop, but it's not the end of the world, because it would mean that we'd get picked up from there. So what, a 20% drop down to the green 50 exponential, and hopefully have a V-shaped recovery and continue with the uptrend, right? Or it could mean that we come down to there and break down, right? But as far as the chart's concerned right now, yeah, fair enough. You try to continue with the uptrend. The trend is your friend until the end of the trend, right? And so the trend is still up, although we do have warning signals on this one to suggest that the trend may be slowing out. The momentum is leaving the chart. So that's all the RSI is. It's a gauge of momentum. The uptrend is strong, but the momentum is dwindling, right? So that is just that. It's a very important component to looking at any kind of uptrend. And at the moment, yeah, the momentum is dwindling, right? So it can't continue with this uptrend for too much longer, unless, of course, we have a breakout of the RSI trend line, and the bearish divergence will be obsolete if we get closures above this trend line. So that would be okay. So we'll keep an eye on it, obviously, but for the moment, yeah, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend, although momentum is leaving the trend. Let's have a look on Tether. So Tether looks a little worse, actually. So maybe the trend is coming to an end. So this has already done what we were kind of anticipating could be the case for the Bitcoin pair. So what we saw here is we're seeing an uptrend, respecting the center of the Bollinger Band, and then we did get a break down from the Bollinger Band towards the 50, and now we're getting up to the Bollinger Band again, but it would appear to be getting rejected from there. So maybe the bearish divergence on the tether pairing has already played out, and so even though it's stronger versus Bitcoin, the divergence might have already played out. So this again does suggest that was the obvious place to buy it for at least just one stab up, and maybe a continued uptrend from here, so a decent buy zone, I suppose. But yeah, the momentum is slowly leaving, and this is the first time we've tagged the 50 exponential in a couple of months, really. And given the nature of the market right now, which is hanging in the balance of a variety of things, you know, Dixie strength, China issues, and traditional markets, you know, will likely be impacted by a stronger dollar, even if it's just in the short term. You should think about, you know, the potential for this to break down. But again, the trend is your friend until the end of the trend. But, you know, using a standard Bollinger Band strategy, being above it, you're more likely to stay above it by 65%. Being below it, obviously the same as the, you know, apparent, you're more likely to stay in this portion of the Bollinger Band by what, 60 or 65%. So the bears have the ever so slightly upper hand now, that we are coming up to the center of the Bollinger Band, and so far being rejected from it. The bears have the very smallest amount of control over the way that this chart is going to progress in the short term. There's no point in looking at this on a weekly, because it's such a small chart. It doesn't really offer us any kind of, you know, it's not really relevant. We'll check it on the 4-hourly before we call it a day. And yeah, so a retest more or less of the, and trying to stay above the 200 exponential, but the center of the Bollinger Band again is our rejection point. So again, the bears have the ever so slightly the upper hand. Looks more evident when you look at it on a 4-hourly, because we are clearly in a downtrend now. But, you know, reclaiming the Bollinger Band on the, you know, on the daily and on the 4-hourly, yeah, I'll be okay with that. And what does the Bitcoin say on the 4-hourly? So the 4-hourly on Bitcoin now is being rejected on the, so the bears have the upper hand on this one. So it does look like maybe the momentum has left, and we might be going to at least just a consolidation, rather than, let's just not say a downtrend, but a downtrend is a consolidation, isn't it, really? And so I think maybe that might be it for now, and we'll have to wait and see how this performs, you know, over the next over this week, at least into next week. If you're looking at this in terms of, you know, breakdown, it's always going to be about the 200 exponential, definitely on Bitcoin, but also on Tether. If we start closing and being rejected on the 200 exponential, then it does mean that, you know, it's probably likely to continue going down, right? So maybe the top is in temporarily for this one, but again, it's a young chart. And because it's young, we have to say, fair enough, you know, do what you want to do. The chart can give us a small example of, or little telltale signs of what we think is going to happen, but because it's so young and it's immature, it doesn't often respect the chart, and it could just moon, or it could just break down. So charts and young coins, you know, they don't often mix very well, but from what I can see there, it does look like a temporary top is in, and we'll break down or just consolidate from that previous top. Right, well, thanks for watching, guys, and if you want to join the Patreon, there are links in the description below. £7.50 a month, you get 2 live streams a week, and access to the Patreon Telegram chat. But other than that, you know, I'll probably do a freebie once a month, or every now and then, and otherwise just subscribe to the channel. I do daily videos, and I hope you all have a nice day, and yeah, take it easy.